Tumhara charana dhore, tumhara charana dhore.
Jaya Vega Domi, Jaya Dosha Shodhi, Jaya Guna Deho Dase.
Jaya Vega Domi, Jaya Dosha Sodhi, Jaya Guna Deho Dase. Jaya Guna Deho Dase. Jaya Satsanga Deho He Amare, Jaya Satsanga Deho He Amare, Jaya Satsanga Deho He Amare, Oshechi Sangero Ashe.
Ekakiya Mala Nahi Payabala, Harinam Sankirtane.
Ekakiya Mara Nahi Paya Bala, Harinam Sankirtane, Harinam Sankirtane. Tumi kripa kore Shadavindo diya, Tumi kripa kore Shadavindo diya, Tumi kripa kore Shadavindo diya, Deho Krishna nama dane. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, welcome everyone.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna
Hare,
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. Today we are continuing on with our discussion on chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. Last time we completed up to text 13 and most of the chapter actually, and this time we will finish it. So before we start, we always say a few prayers. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just sharing my slides here. So last time we discussed the first two parts of this chapter. Anyone remembers what's the first part of chapter 12? What was the first part of chapter 12?
So, Hare Krishna. So maybe who's a better devotee, impersonalist, or
Yes,
or the one
exactly.
who.
Yes. So Arjuna asks, who is the best, or what is the best process to reach you? By worshiping your personal form or worshiping your impersonal form? And Krishna says that both paths lead to the same goal. However, one who worships me in the impersonal way, the path is very troublesome and very difficult, very slow, troublesome, difficult. But for those who surrender unto me and worship me in my personal form, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death, right? So Krishna says how there's two paths, and the first path of worshiping the Lord as a person is much better, much effective, and the best process. Then what's the second section of chapter 2? Someone else.
Qualities of a devotee, Prabhu.
That's what we're doing now. That's part 3, and that's what we will do now. The qualities, the final part of the chapter are all the different qualities of a devotee. But what's section 2?
Yoga.
Like
Yes, the yoga ladder. Yes. Though this chapter is short, it's very important. And the yoga ladder, last time we discussed, very extensive, very detailed description. What is the best process? What is second best? What is third best? All these things. And how we have to quickly rise to the top of the yoga ladder, come to the point of spiritual perfection. Right? So this is the what is known as the yoga ladder. Now in part 3, we are going to talk about the different qualities of a devotee. So these are the qualities of the bhakta who has attained peace. Right? What are his qualities? So so what is the relationship from the previous section to this section? In section 2, we were talking about the yoga ladder, right? But here Krishna is saying that that peace is achieved by 2 methods. One, performing the external limbs of bhakti, or going through this process of karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and then finally realization of self and God. These give rise to qualities which enable abhyasa bhakti yoga, of controlling the mind and bridge the gap to raganuga bhakti. So, Krishna's given this path of perfection, right? The yoga ladder. And the highest platform is to always think of Krishna. That was the top of the ladder, right? To have one's mind always fixed on Krishna. The question is how, so that stage of always having your mind fixed on Krishna is raganuga bhakti. As we described, that's pure bhakti. Below that is following the rules and regulations of devotional service, that's sadhana bhakti. Below that is, offering the fruits, working for Krishna, that's nishkam karma yoga. Offering the fruits of one's results of one's activity to Krishna is sakam karma yoga. But what is the jump from sadhana bhakti to raganuga bhakti? The jump to worshipping Krishna in perfect spontaneous love. That is attained. That is reached by abhyasa bhakti yogena, by endeavoring, by seriously trying to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But to reach that stage of raganuga bhakti, these qualities that we are going to read help us in reaching that stage. So we all can reach that stage, and eventually we'll become purified by the process itself. The process itself will produce the qualities that are needed to attain Krishna. However, if we want to speed it up, then if we have these qualities, then we can more quickly come to the platform of raganuga bhakti. And this is why Krishna again and again describes these qualities throughout the Bhagavad Gita at so many times and so many places, because these qualities give rise to raganuga bhakti. All of these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada is saying. So actually, we want to be careful. These qualities don't give rise to raganuga bhakti. These qualities help one in attaining raganuga bhakti, which is attained by the mercy of the Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulated principles of devotional service. Right? So these qualities give rise to the highest stage of devotional service. And it's not uncommon to find devotees engaged in devotional service, but it's very rare to find someone who is engaged in devotional service and also has these qualifications. Prabhupada here is saying. And such a devotee is, 1 in a million, right? That's the Vacho Vegam, Manasakruta Vegam, what's described in the Nectar of Instruction. The devotee has fully conquered his mind and senses. His urge to speak, the mind's demands, is always peaceful And this is like a wonderful challenge for us in Krishna consciousness, that can we develop those qualities in spite of provocating situations, provoking situations, provocative situations, right? Can we still keep our peace of mind? Can we still not get disturbed? Because we may be humble, but still the world will disturb us. So though we are humble, it doesn't mean that people will not torment us or try to agitate us. So more difficult than humility is tolerance. And if one can develop these qualities of always having these divine qualities in spite of provoking situations, then such a devotee becomes very dear to the Lord, as we will see in this chapter, and they become situated in the standard of devotional service. There's also easy to find devotees who are not engaged in devotional service, who don't do anything, and stay on the sidelines and develop these qualities. But that also is not the point. The point is to engage in the service of the Lord and still have these qualities. What is the bridge from doing the angas of bhakti, mostly externally, to abhyasa yoga? All the qualifications of peace, which are these as follows. These are qualifications of peace. Enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. So all these qualifications give one peace or shanti. And this is, a question. I was just asking this question actually in the Bhagavatam class yesterday. That how can we serve Krishna and also fix things, say things, because in order to improve things, you have to open your mouth and at the same time not be agitated, at the same time be peaceful. Like, so that when we chant, we're not thinking about, the agitating conversation yesterday. How do we develop that quality? And here in this chapter, it's being answered. Krishna saying, these are the qualifications. These are the qualities that lead one to perfect peace. And in that state of peace, it is so much easier to practice abhyasa yoga, meaning that we're not just externally doing bhakti, but we're doing it deeply. We can focus when we chant. We can focus when we serve, and we can come to raganuga bhakti. So this is the relation of peace to these qualities. The first quality here is satatam. They're always engaged in the service of the Lord. A person in peace has no fear and is full of courage. So there's no limit or tipping point when the qualities are abandoned. They always have these qualities. They always, because they have no fear, it's coming from a very deep place in the heart, which is knowledge about Krishna, dependence about Krishna, realization of one's eternal constitutional position. There's no point at which they get fried and they leave, right? The devotees doing their duty, their service to Krishna. The general quality of peace can be explained as specific internal qualities and external behaviors described in text 13 to 20. What is the description of the devotee who has attained such peace? In response to this question, the different natures of many types of devotees are described in 8 verses. So these are just 8 verses, and the natures of these devotees, of these advanced devotees, is described in these 8 verses. What is the relationship between qualities and bhakti? So we say just engage in devotional service. That's true. Good qualities come automatically by bhakti. However, a bhakta works to develop good qualities as part of his or her bhakti. So this is a question that very commonly comes up, that, well, if chanting Hare Krishna, if doing devotional service brings all good qualities, then why are we trying to strive to develop these qualities? And the reason is, is that these qualities are the development of these qualities are part of our bhakti. They're part of our devotional service because Krishna is pleased when we conscientiously try to develop these qualities. Okay, so one more slide, and then yes, a devotee for so here's an example. A devotee of Krishna is automatically a vegetarian, right? That's part of the process of bhakti. Therefore, a devotee takes time and care to make sure all the ingredients are vegetarian as part of his or her practice of bhakti. So being a devotee automatically means being a vegetarian. However, we have to strive to carefully make sure, check the ingredients list to make sure that we're eating vegetarian. In the same way, getting these qualities is part of bhakti, but we have to strive, do I have these qualities? And there's 4 categories of these qualities, and you can remember them by the acronym DEAR. The first category of the qualities mentioned in these verses is detachment above duality. So being free from duality, this is the theme of the Bhagavad Gita. Literally in every chapter, in every single chapter, Krishna talks about how a devotee is undisturbed by happiness and distress, is equipoised in happiness and distress. Why again and again does he describe this quality? Because unless we have this quality, our bhakti will go up and down. And I see this in my own life, that unless we can develop the strength to be undisturbed in any circumstance, every circumstance will affect our bhakti and will make us fall from the spiritual path. A devotee has endeavor and focus. A devotee has the attitude of a servant of God. And a devotee has relationship interaction. A devotee has relationships with other devotees, and it's not just that he's a robot, undisturbed happiness and distress, just doing his functions. At the same time, he is feeling relationships, and how these things can be together is very amazing. Only a devotee can manifest these things. That how we have many yogis who are just like completely cold to the world, or detached above duality, but then they have no feeling. They have very little compassion for the world. Even if they have compassion, it's just it's a cold type compassion. But a devotee like Prabhupada was very personal with everyone. He genuinely cared for every devotee, yet was undisturbed in every situation. So as we discuss these qualities, before we discuss them, I just want to read these 8 verses. It's only 8 verses, so we might as well. Okay, so what is the segue into these verses? That's text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnana dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phalas tyagas tyagat shantiranantaram. Translation: if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So Krishna here talks about peace of mind. We all need peace of mind. And he begins by saying that renunciation of the fruits of work brings peace of mind. First thing that we need for peace of mind that we need is detachment. And here in the yoga ladder, you probably notice Krishna changes the order and he ends with this one. So why he does that is because this then becomes a segue to the next section. Okay, renunciation, sakam karma yoga, tyaga, renunciation of my fruits of work is my path to peace of mind. And then also, text 13, he starts describing the qualities that bring us peace of mind. The first one being adveshta. Adveshta sarva bhutana. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Prabhupada, Krishna is saying, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So all devotees are dear to him, but one who has these qualities is very dear to him. And they're not easy qualities. I mean, free from false ego. All of us have some false ego. We get, some point where we get insulted. Who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, engage in devotional service with determination. Just controlling our senses is almost impossible. We get material desires from time to time. So this is a Raganuga Bhakta. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So anyone means anyone, right? Is not disturbed by anyone. Even the most provoking people, even the most disturbing people, they're not disturbed by anyone. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. To lament too much is also a obstacle in bhakti, because lamentation is the mode of ignorance. So even to lament for spiritual things is at a certain point self-aggrandizement, because the devotee is more interested in service than in lamentation, right? Like in the Nectar Devotion, the famous example of the devotee who's fanning the Lord, and as he's fanning, tears are streaming down his eyes. But then he stops the tears from coming down, because if the tears are coming down the eyes, then he cannot see properly. And if he cannot see properly, then he cannot fan the Lord properly. You cannot fan the Lord because the fan will then hit Krishna. Like, you have to do it carefully. You have to see the fan. So in that case, his lamentation was becoming an obstacle in his bhakti. And not giving up that lamentation would be seen as a lack of bhakti. So when lamentation, a devotee always is more interested in serving the Lord. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. So all these qualities, and who is engaged in devotional service. So that's also very important. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. And that's the end. So the process of becoming very, very dear to Krishna is described in this chapter 12. And this is why chapter 12 is considered by some to be the most important, most wonderful chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Even though all the chapters are equally wonderful and important, but still, because this path of imperishable devotional service, in which we completely engage ourselves with faith and we develop these qualities, makes a person reach the perfect highest stage of bhakti, the highest perfection. Okay, so back to the slides. And so I'm going a little fast. Okay. So in this first category, detachment above duality. So Krishna says that the devotee, in the verses that we read, now you can note, think back at the verses. He says a devotee is unaffected by happiness, distress, fear, anxiety, auspicious things, or inauspicious things. Why is a devotee unaffected by inauspicious things? Because in his service, there's nothing like auspicious or inauspicious. Whatever is favorable for his service, whatever is favorable for Krishna is auspicious. Anything else is inauspicious. So the devotee is not concerned with mundane auspicious and inauspicious. Like people say, oh, this is it is inauspicious to travel at this time or to bathe in the river at this time. Yes, that is true, and the devotee respects those things, but he's not concerned or affected by auspicious or inauspicious in fulfilling the order of the Lord. So if he needs to bathe at that time to serve the Lord, he will bathe at that time, even if it's an inauspicious time to take a bath. Another example just came to my mind and then it slipped. So there's so many examples like this in which a devotee will externally, the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant, Govinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was once lying down on the ground. He was a sannyasi, but right on the doorway. And his service was to massage the Lord's feet. Now, he was on the other side. So Lord Chaitanya is lying down, and so his legs are past the doorway. So he cannot massage him. So he requests the Lord that, please, can you shift a little bit so I can walk around you? Because it's very inauspicious to cross over someone. You don't walk over them. And so he asked the Lord, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you want to massage me, feel free to do so. I'm too tired to move. So he would not move. And so Govinda thinks, what should I do? And then he crosses over the Lord. And then he massages him. Now, while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took rest, that was the time when Govinda, after massaging the Lord, would take his prasadam. But the Lord is lying there. So he's massaging him. But then Govinda stays in the room where the Lord is. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wakes up and he says, Govinda, have you eaten your food? And he says, no, I haven't. He says, why did you not cross over me and take your prasad? When you came in, you crossed over me. So why did you not do the same and go and take your prasad? And Govinda says that crossing over you is very inauspicious. It's very bad. It's very wrong for a servant to do. But for my service to you, I was willing to do that. For my service, I had to do that. So therefore, I broke the codes of conduct and crossed over you and massaged you. However, for my own gratification of eating, for that I will not cross over you. Right? So this is an example of how a devotee follows, doesn't do inauspicious things, but he's unaffected by auspicious or inauspicious in the context of his service. So for his service, he would cross over Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But for himself, he wouldn't. And that's the mood of a devotee. Joy and grief, the devotee is unaffected by joy and grief, desire and lamentation, honor and dishonor, fame and infamy, heat and cold, bodily pleasure and pain. So all of these things a devotee is unaffected by. We think at least, heat and cold, to be affected by that is natural. We become so affected, we need the AC if it's super hot in India, so on. But a devotee has so much inner strength that even heat and cold does not affect the devotee. He does not rejoice at gaining dear things. He does not show hatred on attaining what is disagreeable. He does not lament on the destruction of what is dear to him. Equipoised means these things. He does not hanker for what he does not have. He has given up both pious actions and sinful actions because they are both causes of bondage. This is Baladev Vidyabhushan. Such amazing qualities, right? Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on these verses. Raghunath Das Goswami in his Manashiksha similarly prays, "O my dear mind, please do not perform the religious activities described in the Vedas or the sinful activities also designated in the scriptures. O mind, engage yourself fully in serving Sri Sri Radha and Krishna with love and devotion." The fonts here are not coming out good, but he's saying that don't try to do pious things or impious things. Simply engage yourself fully in Krishna consciousness. When people come to Krishna consciousness, they have difficulty understanding this principle. Like they're like, how is it that you are not following these rituals? How is it that you don't do this and that? You are not following the scriptures. Like recently, one family was very concerned about ISKCON standard in terms of where women can serve and where they cannot serve and this and that, and that's all a discussion. Prabhupada also described that different people have different different things described in the scripture in relation to their services. But the higher principle and the reason why ISKCON is more flexible in these things is that we have to engage ourselves fully in serving Krishna. Purity and pollution are not the first and foremost things like other traditions. But what is most important is that we're engaged fully in the service of the Lord. And our mind and our heart is getting purified. So this was in the first section of detachment and duality. A devotee is unaffected by all of these things, happiness, distress, all of these things. Now the second is endeavor and focus. Krishna is the supreme goal of life. Serving Krishna with determination, like we read, right? With full determination, the devotee is serving Krishna. The devotee is self-controlled, expert, pure, not looking for a material result, without cares, and has their mind and intelligence fixed on Krishna. So these were the qualities that we had read in the chapter. The third category has the attitude of a servant of God. So endeavor is there, focus is there, but not for oneself, but for Krishna. He understands that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. He does not consider himself to be the proprietor. Remember, that was one of the qualities in one of the verses. He's devoid of the illusions arising from possessing a house, Baladev Vidyabhushan says. So he does not care for any residence, it was said, right? He doesn't think that his house is his house, my house. House is a big thing in this material world. Being a householder myself, a householder, right? I've realized this, so much of the ego is in relation to the house. The anxiety, the labor is in relation to the house. The mentality, the atmosphere is in relation to the house. So the devotee is free from the illusion that anything belongs to me. What to speak of a house? I'm not the proprietor. I'm a temporary visitor in this material world. Everything belongs to the Lord. So whatever Krishna gives, I'm happy. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Right? The spirit soul is bewildered by the influence of false ego, right? He thinks himself the doer, that I am uh, I am the doer. This is the material consciousness. It's my effort, my everything that makes everything happen. But a devotee doesn't feel that way. Actually, Krishna is in control. Things are carried out by the three modes of material nature. My part is simply to worship Krishna, and Krishna is the ultimate decider on how successful are my efforts. My duty is to work very hard for Krishna, put in as much effort as I can for Krishna, but I am not the doer. I'm not the one who's going to make it happen. But my effort may inspire the grace of Krishna, and therefore devotees, every moment they're engaged in the Lord's service, they're working hard for Krishna to inspire that mercy of Krishna. A devotee is always tolerant and satisfied. So in another chapter, we read how satisfaction is one of the austerities of the mind. Satisfaction is something that must be practiced, right? It's not something that is a gift from God, that some people have it and some people don't. We must practice satisfaction, that at least I have what I need. Krishna has been so kind to me. I'm not right now in Ukraine or in Gaza and being bombed. At least I have some sanity in my life where I can serve the Lord, and I should be satisfied. Why so much dissatisfaction? I should be satisfied with what I have, the gifts that Krishna has given me. And if we are satisfied, then we can very nicely and peacefully chant. We can chant Krishna's holy name and not be disturbed. But if we are always dissatisfied, then even during our chanting, we're going to be agitated. We should also be satisfied with the association with the service that Krishna has given us. Okay, not everything's perfect, but I have some service, and that is Krishna's great benediction upon me. Happy and satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Food, money, residence. We always should feel that our spiritual life could be better. That area we can be dissatisfied. But then that, if it's truly just that desire, then that will encourage us to focus more, serve more, think of Krishna more, right? So that is the key thing. Relationship interaction, finally. Love, mercy, respect, and freedom. How a devotee acts in these ways. This is the final category. We did the third one, which is the attitude of a servant of God. I'm a servant, therefore I'm satisfied. The servant is satisfied what the master gives him. And now, how does a devotee deal with other people? Adveshta. Adveshta means, anyone remember what Adveshta means? The word for translation, what does it say? What does Adveshta mean?
No hatred.
No hatred. That's a nice way to put it. Very nice. Very good. But how does Prabhupada translate it?
Maitri.
Maitri, yes. So that's the opposite of it. But
Envious?
non-envious. Yes, non-envious. Srila Prabhupada translates Adveshta as non-envious. No hatred. Adveshta means that a person does not have hatred even for those who hate oneself. Rather, one has friendliness towards them, Maitri. One is merciful to them, thinking that they should not end up in unfortunate circumstances. Right? And it's not easy to practice these things. When someone hurts us, it's not easy. And if someone hurts us, we may also understand philosophically that they will receive their karma. They will suffer as a result of the suffering they gave us, because Krishna is fair. However, due to one's spiritual advancement, like Jesus Christ, right? When these people were coming and crucifying him, he prayed to the Lord. He says, Lord, they do not know what they're doing. Please forgive them. Still, he was desiring their benefit. He was desiring that they don't become unfortunate, that the Lord becomes merciful to them and liberates them. That's the devotional compassion. That's the compassion of a devotee. Not to be misunderstood or misapplied. From a tiger, we may have to stay away. We cannot be compassionate from them. from someone who's like a snake, very difficult, we may not be able to show them compassion, right? But the point is that we should not harbor ill feeling in our heart. We should pray that Krishna rectifies their consciousness. Krishna rectifies them so they come to the right path, right? So they are so bad, some people, that you cannot associate with them. You may not even be able to think good of them. But then there's two ways we can pray. One is that if they're such bad people, is that Krishna, please just finish them, turn them into pulp, and hang them upside down on a tree. Like we can have bad thoughts towards them, feel anger and want to see their destruction. A different thought is that yes, they're bad, we recognize it, but Krishna, please show them your mercy so they realize their mistake and improve them, fix them, rectify them. And that is a prayer of a devotee. That, my Lord, please rectify these people, save these people. And that is true friendship, right? Friendliness and friendship doesn't mean that we don't see things as they are, right? Friendliness doesn't mean that oh, because I'm friendly to everyone, therefore, if someone's coming to kill me, I'll just be friendly to them and won't hide from them, or won't even attack them to protect myself. No, friendliness means that I desire everyone's welfare. So if someone is attacking, being bad, then it is in their welfare. It is in their welfare that I defend myself. It is in their welfare that I try to subdue them. So a king like Maharaj Parikshit, great devotee king, when he went and killed the demons, those who were the bad, the evil people, punished them, he was not acting in an unfriendly way, and because he was a great devotee. He is acting out of friendship because he understood that this is the way to protect them from doing more sinful activities. The king has to, punish the criminals, because otherwise they become more worse. So friendliness means desiring the welfare of another person. And if we truly desire the welfare of another person, then we'll do the right thing always. Then others will also feel that this person wants the welfare. Like a parents, and a wonderful example, parents to the children. The parents' friendliness to the children, their intense love for the children, doesn't mean that they're always pampering the child. They also may chastise the child. But the difference between them and someone else is that their chastisement is coming from the right place. It's coming from the right place. It's coming from the right place, and it's going out in the best way possible. But if that same parent takes a baseball bat and every time their child does something wrong, he hits him with a baseball bat, then that is not friendliness, because they're not trying to rectify that child. Rather, they're simply trying to punish the child. So in the same way, the devotee acts in such a way towards every living being that it will be for their benefit. And that means sometimes chastising them, sometimes, maybe even disagreeing with them, but they're coming from the right place. They're not coming or acting out of envy, adveshta. They don't have dvesha, enviousness towards others. Adveshta means they're trying to make them non-envious, bringing them closer to Krishna. Love one's enemies. This person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. Prabhupada is saying, quote from Prabhupada, so it is better to suffer than to protest. So I mentioned how we have to act in the best interest of others, right? That means being non-envious. Best interest means doing what will be best for them. But Prabhupada here is giving us an even deeper point that, well, what if, and we find ourselves in such a situation, that what if we cannot do anything in the situation, and this person is simply causing us suffering? Prabhupada says that a devotee is very deep. They understand that in my past life, I must have hurt this person somewhere or the other. I hurt them. And in this life, they're taking their revenge. So rather than continuing the cycle of revenge, let me tolerate. On this one, I want to say that we should not, again, misapply this, and then we can become very hurt, right? So if someone comes and steals something or hurts us, a devotee does take them to court and he gets them punished, right? But what here Prabhupada is saying is that in spite of your efforts of getting justice, of doing the right thing, if we find ourselves in a situation that we cannot do anything, right? We are unable to rectify that situation. It's in our lot simply to suffer. Then a devotee has this mentality that then this must be Krishna's arrangement. I tried everything I could. It must be Krishna's arrangement that I'm simply burning off the results of my past misdeeds. And rather than complaining and protesting to Krishna, it's better I just accept the reactions and let them pass until they have passed, until they're burnt off. And we find so many times people, like when Hitler was persecuting the Jews, then the Jews were completely powerless to do anything. There's no, I mean, he had so much military power, and until a long time, the other countries were not doing anything. They tried appealing to so many countries, but America was taking its time, and no one wanted to get involved in this war. And then finally, and Hitler was also doing it secretly. So the rest of the world didn't know how many Jews were actually being killed and how badly they were being killed. He kept everything very secret. It wasn't the time of social media, Facebook, where pictures get passed. There were no cell phones at that time. So it also took time for the world to know the extent and degree of what he was doing. So they were powerless. And then eventually help comes, and but by that time millions of Jews had died. So that's an example of if one finds oneself in that situation. There's this book, The Sunflower, where a Jewish survivor is writing his memories, and he's saying that how, and this is true, I mean, he's recounting when they're in these concentration camps. Then it was him and he had two friends, and the three of them kind of stuck together, like they knew each other a little from before, and they found each other in the concentration camp, and all three of them were being tortured and worked. They had to work day and night in freezing cold weather, no clothes, nothing. And so they kind of were together until eventually they're separated. But one of his friends was a very godly person. He writes in his diary. So he was writing, and then his diary, he survived. So then he published his diary. And he said that his name was John or something like this. And he said that all of us were just so disturbed, angry, distraught. Their children were torn away from them. Their families were torn away from them. Like when they would take these Jews, they would line them up, the women on one, the men on one, and they would stand side by side, and they would be marching away, and the children one line. And then they would think, oh, we're going forward to board the train. And as they would come close to the train, with no notice, the lines would separate. The men would go in one, the women in one, the children in one. That would be the last time that they would see them. Just overnight, they were just thrown out in the middle of nowhere, never to be connected again. So Simon, his name was. So his friend was a very devout Christian, and while he was in the concentration camp, he kept on reading the Bible. He was praying. He was reading the story of Job and getting inspiration on how the Lord gives suffering to his devotee. And he recounts in that book. It's a very amazing book. He said how everyone around him was suffering in that camp. However, his friend was not suffering. Whenever you see him, he was radiant. He was like, because he had understood this principle, which is, he was a very advanced soul. He had understood that I'm unfortunate, right? The situation is unfortunate, but based upon my consciousness, I can change that situation from an unfortunate situation to a situation in which I can advance spiritually. I can reach the ultimate goal. He was self-realized. He could understand that, that with death, anyway, we are all going to part. With death, everything is going to be finished. So Krishna is preparing me for death. Already we have parted. And that doesn't reduce in any way the sins and the activities of Hitler and the SIS. They will still equally, they will still get the reactions, heavy reactions of their actions. They'll still be, burned in hell, right? But in the meantime, this person was able to be peaceful, and in this way, use suffering as a catalyst to come very close to Krishna. So a very deep point that Prabhupada is making. Prabhupada is not speaking of inaction here. A devotee like Hanuman, if there's something wrong, takes action. What Prabhupada here is speaking of is a devotee who, like this Simon and his friend, who are can even connect with Krishna in the most difficult situation, and in this way perfect their life. In this way, not suffer, but rather transcend the suffering by the mercy of Krishna, or suffer less. Family relations. So we were talking about relationships, right? This is the category of relationships. So a devotee is non-possessive of children and wife, nirmamo, by not thinking of the body as a self. So he loves his family and children, but he's not possessive of them. He's not attached to them. He understands that this is, in the greater scheme, this connection is temporary. The material connection is illusory, and actually, we are all servants of Krishna. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written, "My friends, wife, sons, and daughters are now your servants and maidservants. Whatever care I take for them is only as they are related to you." Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So they're not my servants or maidservants, they're your maidservants. This is the only way for happy family life. My friends, wives, sons, and daughters are now your servants and maidservants. Whatever care I take for them is only as they are related to you. So because they're your servants, therefore it is my duty to take care of them. But they don't belong to me. They're not meant to serve me. Of course, we serve Krishna by serving the members of our family also, because they're also servants of Krishna, so we're serving them. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying this. So I'm serving them because they're servants of Krishna. Similarly, his wife and children would serve him, thinking that he truly was and is a servant of Krishna. So we have to serve him. So they're serving each other as devotees, thinking of each other as devotees. So charity begins at home. If we are devotees with the rest of the world, but not devotees at home, then what is the use? We must be devotees at home as well. And that is the secret of bhakti. And finally, he by whom no one is put into difficulty. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Such a devotee is kind to everyone. He does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. And this is very difficult, right? Because it's our nature. Even when we do the right thing, we put others into anxiety. Because we cannot please everyone. Whatever course of action we take seems to make one group happy, but put another group into anxiety. However, the devotee is so perfect, he's so wonderful, again, not artificially, but due to his love for Krishna, that somehow they are someone who people just like. And you'll see devotees like that are very nice devotees, people just like them because they see that this person is not trying to put me to difficulty, has no agenda. It only wants to serve the Lord and help others. And this was a quality of my Guru Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and many other great Vaishnavas in our movement, that they acted in such a way that they're all auspicious. They were so expert at dealing with people and dealing with them on their level and satisfying them spiritually, bringing them closer to Krishna. So we can try practicing this also. Remember, these qualities are qualities that develop as a result of bhakti, but our practice of bhakti is also endeavoring to develop these qualities. Right? So it's both ways. Very important. So we can try to do this. The devotee is not disturbed by anyone. If others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service. Such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, when a materialistic person is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. So this is the thing, this is why a devotee does not put himself into anxiety. It does not try to retaliate, does not create enmity with others. And I've noticed this in my own life with like serving and disagreeing with devotees, because then you have to be afraid of the retaliation that comes. If you are averse to someone, then there's going to be some retaliation that comes, and the retaliation is is worse than the initial problem, right? Then we have another headache, and this person is going to always dislike me, and I'm going to next time see him at the temple, there's going to be some tension. So better be engaged in Krishna consciousness and not create a situation of retaliation. So I'm not expecting retaliation, to adjust things. Of course, if there is some disagreement, the devotee still goes on with the service and prays to Krishna, and Krishna resolves it. A devotee never takes the part of a particular party. Therefore, he is carefree. So this is another quality of a devotee, that we tend to be very, opinionated. We take parties, even in the spiritual context, even if we're doing the right thing. We find sometimes devotees, they're just like, they either really support the management or they don't support it. They immediately develop an opinion, this person I like, this person is not good, he's not a good devotee. But why create these parties? Why create this this type of friends and enemies? This is not what devotional life is about. If we're all servants of Krishna, and if we are a servant, then how can we chastise others? How can a servant chastise others? If we're chastising others, then that means we are a master, right? The master can chastise the servant, or or shape, bring someone. But if we truly believe we are a servant, then we should be a servant, right? So there's one of Maharaj's servants. His name is I know him so well, Dashavatar Prabhu. So Dashavatar Prabhu, he was been with Maharaj for many years, one of the senior servants. And one time a new servant was coming and creating some trouble, and so some devotees requested him that, can you correct him? And Dashavatar Prabhu said, he told him that he told him that if I correct him, then how am I a servant? Right? My service is to serve. If this servant is creating a problem, then my spiritual master will correct him. Then my Guru Maharaj will bring him back on the right path. But if I correct him, that means I'm not a servant. I'm now a master. So he was thinking in this way. Of course, if Maharaj asked him, or if it was really necessary, he could. But again, that's the place he was coming from. That he didn't want to take any step unless absolutely necessary, because he saw his role as being a servant. So therefore, the devotee doesn't want to take particular parties, and he's equal to everyone means equal to everyone, right? Free from the duality of friends and enemies means free from the duality of friends and enemies. So why should I think one party is my friend, the other party is my enemy? Neutral. He does not take sides. This is the quality of a devotee. Baladevi Vidyabhushan says this. But doesn't he take the side of Krishna against Maya? Yes, but that's not taking sides. That's sticking to the truth. That's why our ultimate Krishna is known as the absolute truth. The devotee is interested in taking the side of truth. It doesn't matter which side it's on, but whichever side has a truth, that's whichever side is dharma, that's the side he walks on. So by not particular party, Prabhupada is saying he doesn't connect himself with a label that I'm part of the Republicans or the Democrats, or a part of the management or not the management. I'm whichever side has the truth. That's the path I'll take. At the same time, respecting the other side, not trying to make enmity with the other side. So that is that. Okay. So this is the nectarian path endowed with good qualities. There's a nectar of these qualities. These qualities are not just qualities, but they themselves are nectarian. It's nectarian to see a devotee who has them. And finally, I just want to say here that this image shows the oil, right? Oil is dripping. And bhakti is described as taila dhara. That bhakti is not like water coming, which is splatters. There's break in it. But real bhakti is like the flow of oil, which is very smooth. It's unbreaking. And we can get that smooth bhakti, like the oil, the unbroken bhakti, when we develop these qualities. Because until we have these qualities, our bhakti will get disturbed. It'll go up and down, because something bad will happen. We'll freak out, and this, that, some problem, some blow up. But when we have these qualities, then the bhakti is undisturbed, right? So that's why these qualities are synonymous with bhakti, because they make our bhakti taila dhara, like the flow of oil. One with such qualities is very dear to Krishna. This is why we want to follow these qualities, not because we're interested in getting wonderful qualities, but because the qualities are dear to Krishna, and we want to do anything that is dear to Krishna. And so these were the 4 qualities again that we covered. These qualities please Krishna, and Krishna is pleased by these, and remember, again, the point being focused here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur saying that Krishna is pleased by the bhakti. We find in the material world people who have these qualities, right? They're counselors and they're equipoised, but these qualities alone don't please him. But when they're practiced in relation to bhakti, they become bhakti, and then it pleases Krishna. Key point here. Krishna is controlled by persons devoted to him alone, and by the persons devoted solely to the process of bhakti, dedicated to him. The most beautiful Krishna is conquered completely by love. When we have pure love for Krishna, then that is the best quality. All the qualities will manifest at that time. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So I will stop here, a very deep chapter, and we have about 15 minutes for comments and questions. If someone would like to share their comments, it'd be very nice. Yes, Hare Krishna, Bhadra Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class. You mentioned that when we are doing bhakti and devotional service for the Lord, and as our taste increases, our bhakti also increases, and we start to perform more service. Because then we begin to understand that yeah, this is what Krishna likes. But at some point, is it not that we, when we increase our bhakti, is it not that we even start getting attached to a particular service? And then when we see that somebody else is starting to do that service, it starts to bother us because we kind of feel that, okay, this is my service, how come he's serving it? So how do you see that aspect and not get affected? Because we also hear that we are not we are not supposed to be a proprietor, but being in the material world, working under the modes of material nature, and being influenced with Maya, these thoughts do cross our mind at some point.
Yes.
So how do we avoid that kind of a situation, or how do we stay and not be affected by these situations?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. This is the challenge, right? This depends on our spiritual evolution. So, and we have to do it naturally. So if we are attached to a service, like we are naturally, we're attached to our services, then we have to fulfill them. And we may have to speak up and make that arrangement. Yet at the same time, if we are really again, not to do it artificially, forcefully, but if we're really in an advanced level of Krishna consciousness, then we can even feel okay to give that service to someone else, and we take upon a different service, or we do an even more better service for Krishna, or a different service for Krishna. Just like, to give you an example, some time back, Vishnunam Prabhu was on this call, and he was describing, you may remember, he was describing how His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj gave him the instruction that if someone is envious of you, he was in management, he said, someone is envious of you, then promote them, give them an even better service. And then he said that he followed that instruction. And when people were envious of him and they wanted more service, he kept on giving them more service and more service, kept promoting them. And finally, he said that these very same people took his service and removed him from his management post. And then Guru Maharaj gave him the service of becoming vice president in Vrindavan Dham. So he had that vision. I would not be able to do that. But he was able to do that. Vishnunam Prabhu was able to do that. And so he did it. But on the flip side, the other story, the other part is that one time Guru Maharaj wanted to give up his service because others wanted it. He said, oh, let me give it up. And he wrote to Prabhupada that I want to give up this service. And Prabhupada wrote back to him and said, don't be like rascal. This is your service. You must do this service. If others want to take it from you, you cannot let them get it. So on the other hand, sometimes we have a service which the spiritual master has given to us, or the senior devotee has given to us, that is for us. And we don't have the right to give it up unless those who are senior to us, give it to someone else. So every service that we have, that anyone has, is true service, is given by a senior devotee to us, right? It's not self-decided, it's given by someone. So if someone else is taking that service, then we should go to that senior Vaishnava who gave it to us, who gave that service, and say that, should I continue this service or should I give it to them? And if they have a better service for us, then they will say, yeah, give it to them, and you can take this service. Just like so many times devotees, they gave up their service, and then they did it so well, and they were able to become detached also, that then they became even more glorious. They took a better service. But some other times the spiritual master may feel, no, this is a very difficult service. This other person is just being jealous. They won't be able to do it, and we should continue doing it. So it really depends. We don't have to fight it. If it's the other devotees, the senior devotees themselves will support us, and we can ask for their help.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, you know better than me. You're asking for our benefit, but there's many ways to respond to this situation. Yes. Hare Krishna. Rajiv Sham Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Very nice lecture, Prabhu. In one of the points that you mentioned, that we should not put anxiety, we should not give anxiety, we should act in such a way that we should not give anxiety to others. So, how to cultivate that attitude? Does it come on its own, or is there a process where you can cultivate that and act in such a way that you are not causing anxiety? Because it's like two different people, right? We don't know what our behavior is causing to others. So how best to
Yes.
follow that, or how best to cultivate that?
Yes. Yeah. So this is a fact that that we will sometimes have to do things that create anxiety for others. Perhaps we will invariably do things. We will invariably do things that will end up creating anxiety for others. But the meaning of this passage and how we practice that, which you're asking, is that the devotee is not intentionally okay with creating anxiety for others, right? So like from his own side, the devotee tries to settle it so that they know, okay, the other, from my side, I'm clear, right? Just recently, I had some issue at our local place, a temple, and the person giving me the service changed their mind, and first they asked me to do it, and then they realized, no, they don't want me to do it, or somehow they just decided to do it themselves after I'd worked so much into it. And so okay, that was there, but and then I wrote to them and gave them all the information that they needed, so at least they know. I could have just left them in the dark, but okay, at least they know this is all done, and then they could take it from there. Now, I didn't go and then start helping them because I felt bad. I was like, well, if you're taking it from me, then you do it. But at the same time, I guess there's some effort that, okay, I won't, my side, I want to, clarify this is where I'm at. So we from our own end, we try to settle things. Like, okay, I don't want them to be in anxiety. Now they want to put me into anxiety, or they want to act in a way that creates anxiety. That is their decision, their choice. But I won't make it more difficult. I won't create more agitation. Because with this one and the previous one that we discussed, the principle, what's the principle? The principle is I want to do what is best for Krishna. I want to do what is best for furthering Krishna's mission, furthering this movement. So one time Guru Maharaj, he said that everyone thinks, most devotees, he said, think what is best for me. But he said, but Krishna consciousness means that I think what is best for Srila Prabhupada's movement. And also me, but my focus is what is best for the movement, what will make things move forward. And so therefore he creates less anxiety for others. That's helping in that process.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Just like a nice example is Prabhupada and his family. Right? His wife didn't cooperate, his children didn't cooperate, and Prabhupada had to leave at a certain point. But then he left them some inheritance, a bank balance. They had a home, everything, and then he took sannyas. So he thought from his side, he didn't want to give his family undue anxiety. So perfect, right, in every way, though they were ungrateful and not very helpful towards him. But he did his duty. He left them with something that gave them more than enough time to stand up on their own feet, and then he left. So he didn't give undue anxiety when he could have. Very nice. Okay, I'll leave Haripriya for the end because she summarizes everything. So we only have a few minutes. So Shri Nitai Charan, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Thank you for very nice illustrations, and particularly the book about sunflower, the Jewish example, what you gave. I have a very broad question. I remember in the very initial classes, when you're giving introduction, you mentioned about the glories of this Bhakti Yoga chapter, how your Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Swami Maharaj, advised you some point of a time to recite this Bhakti Yoga chapter, right? One incident you narrated. I remember that dealing with the Shaligram Sila.
Yes.
Right? So my question is, the recitation of this particular Bhakti Yoga, how's that given as an antidote for your lack of service or deficiency in service when compared to, for example, knowledge of the Absolute? The chapter is there, 7th chapter, or the opulence of the Absolute, which is Vibhuti Yoga, which is glorifying the Lord, and also the Purushottam Yoga. So why is this chapter given as a remedial measure for fixing all our deficiency in service?
Yes, so you're absolutely, all the chapters are given as a remedial measure because they're spoken by Krishna, and by speaking what is spoken by Krishna, it purifies the heart, it frees us from reactions. So key point that any place in the Gita is auspicious because it's spoken by Krishna as part of the Bhagavad Gita. It's very, very auspicious. But among all the chapters, chapter 12 is considered even more auspicious. Like Prabhupada says, this is spiritual logic, where even in the best, you can still have it better. So all the chapters are best. But even within that, you can have better. Why? Because it describes pure devotional service. Well, only for that reason. Krishna is giving us pure devotional service. So we say how the middle 6 chapters deal with bhakti, so they're most special. Well, within the middle 6, this is the final 6 to 12. It's the conclusion of that 6 chapters on bhakti, and it's most condensed bhakti. So even if you can't read the entire rest of the Gita, if you read chapter 12, you get the essence. So same thing with chapter 10. It's also Chaturshloki Gita. All the chapters are very special, but chapter 12 is pure devotional service. So it's directly dealing, and so it's very auspicious. Yeah, there's no specific, like even if you were to chant the Maha Mantra, that would also give remedial. But chapter 12 is famous for this. It's just Krishna spoken it. It's on pure devotional service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice question. Okay, Haripriya, last one, and you can summarize.
Yes, so really nice. We can see that you covered the deer part. That's D means detachment and duality. E means endeavor and focus. A means attitude of a servant of God, and R means relationship, interaction. And then detachment and duality, you said that the devotee is not affected by auspicious and inauspicious time. Whatever Krishna says for him is auspicious, and other things are inauspicious. And then endeavor and focus is that Krishna is the supreme goal of life. And then the attitude of servant of the Lord is like Krishna is the owner and doer. Everything Krishna does is for good. Even if Krishna does something bad for a devotee, still the devotee thinks that Krishna is doing it for his good. So, and then the relationship and interaction, that no hatred, no envy. A devotee has no envy and no hatred, but he by whom no one is put into difficulty, who is not disturbed by anyone. A devotee is always neutral, therefore he is carefree. The devotee so devotee, he always takes the side of the truth, no matter who it is. One with such qualities is very dear to Krishna. So the devotee, he doesn't he doesn't uh, he doesn't follows all these qualities, that he wants to see like how much he's like proud or something. He does it for the satisfaction of Krishna. Everything a devotee does is the satisfaction of Krishna. And the last point is that, so the relation of these qualities to the path, all these qualifications enable a devotee to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulated principles of devotional service. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful summary and wonderful points, not just summary, reflections on the chapter. Haribol. Okay, thank you everyone for your very kind attention. And we will see you next week, chapter 13. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.